James,
Raf,
is this scary?
that's kind of scary. I'll just describe for the viewers. We're recording remotely today, and Raf is he's moving a off-screen light back and forth quite rapidly against his face. I wouldn't have identified it as scary had he not brought that up. He's still doing it. What is
I'm
it?
being childish. I don't know. It's just this light lamp thing that has a kind of a touch thing.
Oh, that's cool. Okay,
Yeah.
now I'm back in now. All right, folks. We are talking today about a few things, actually, but as per usual, they do circle around OpenAI.
Yeah.
And the man at the top of OpenAI. There's been a bit going on. There's been some news that's been ping-ponging around.
And it's not good, folks. It's not good news. This isn't one of those like, oh, the future's going to be interesting kind of episodes.
Exactly.
This is actually old school down around in some ways. Like, this is just going off.
There's a bit of drama. Yeah, totally. If you're one of the down around listeners who is a AI hater and skeptic, you've been eating good this week or over the weekend, let's just say, because this is really about Sam Altman and the leadership of OpenAI as they sort of careen stumbling towards what could be the biggest. Well, it's not going to be the biggest IPO in history because it looks like SpaceX will probably take that because they're angling for 1.5 trillion.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
I want to say, look, we're going to return and talk about that at some point because there's a bit going on in that world too. But yeah, OpenAI, we've covered over the past few weeks that they've been in a bit of a fits and starts trying to figure out what they're all about.
So I'll very quickly stop you for a live fact check, because when you said that you're like nearly 1.5 trillion, in my mind I was like, did I hear a number 1.7 somewhere? 1.75? No, that can't be right. It's got to be more like 1.5. And then I just looked it up. It's 1.75 to 2 trillion is what they're looking for an IPO. So yes, we'll return to SpaceX at some stage.
Actually, it's kind of funny. There's the lead story on the information today, and yes, I know we're already swerving a bit from talking about
that duplicitous
CEO. Twink. Okay, all right. You pulled the trigger on that one, and I ran with it. But there's a story on the front page of the information right now, which is about how SpaceX is struggling to grow its Starlink mobile, which is like one of the great white whales, this idea that you can connect to Starlink and get internet basically anywhere directly from your iPhone or whatever device you have. And they're having issues growing it. But one thing that really caught my eye on that piece is that it keeps coming back to it, this idea that Elon Musk and everyone else thinks that Starlink mobile is a big part of its valuation. Like that is going to be one of the things that justifies it being valued at what the information says 1.25 trillion, which is the number I floated, but I know there's been some bigger ones floated around as well. I just think that's crazy. I get that it would be really good if they could have everyone using, or a significant portion of mobile users using Starlink mobile for their internet. But does that really justify that kind of sky-high valuation?
I mean, there's
for what is essentially a telco sub-business?
That's what I was going to say. Like, let's just have a look at the price of some other telecommunications companies. Surely there'd be a few in the trillions, right? Folks, there aren't.
There aren't. Like 200 billion for AT&T. Yeah, it's like a $200 billion company. What's the Telstra market cap? Telstra's current market cap is 60 billion. Now, let's be honest. Let's be clear. Telstra doesn't have a Mars colonization business attached to it. Although I reckon it's one of those things that they wouldn't do it now, but like the Telstra of the 2010s, where they were trying to pitch themselves as being like a tech company. Maybe they would do that. Maybe be like, hey, we're going to Mars.
What's the benefit? Again, we're so sidetracked, but what's the benefit of having the satellite phone? Is it just like if you go hiking in the wilderness, you still get data? Like why would I go with the SpaceX mobile phone plan over AT&T or Verizon or whatever?
I don't really get it. I feel like with 5G, like internet speeds while you're out and about is like a solved problem.
Yeah. It's very rare that I'm like, oh, I don't have internet. Especially as with satellite, don't they like, you have to have a clear sky between you and the satellite? Like you can't be inside?
And there's lots of other like density issues or whatever. It's one of the things that makes Starlink, at least under the technology we have now, only kind of like additive to an existing broadband network and not something that could replace it entirely. Because there's
anyway, we'll do some more research and get back to you guys. Yeah.
So we're firing off the dome, and there's people who've read the episode title wondering what the hell we're talking about. But yeah, anyway, Sam Altman and OpenAI have had, I would say, ever since they ditched Sora, their video generation platform, and you can go back and listen to that if you like, they've had a real run of like bad press, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. Can we start by reminding everyone that part of the PR around ditching Sora, their video generation stuff, was no more side quests. No more side quests. No more distractions.
We're locked in.
We're going, and in fact, we're thinking enterprise.
Yeah, Anthropic have shown us the way. They're growing their business in crazy ways, not worrying about image and video generation and porno bots and whatever else OpenAI got stuck looking at in consumer world.
Social media sites and all this stuff.
Exactly. It's about coding. It's about enterprise. We're going after the same thing.
Yeah. Time to focus. We're locked in.
First thing they've done. First thing they did, and this is before we're going to go through a list of different things, but the first thing they did is they announced they were requiring a podcast for what is being described as being, I've not seen this backed up anywhere.
Yeah, I'm querying this price tag, but the only reported number,
the low hundreds of millions of dollars
for TBPN, which started as a podcast called The Technology Brothers.
The Technology Brothers Podcast Network, yes. And we'll talk about it in a second. I'll be honest with you, I think we have a great thing going on here, and I'm glad we have so many engaged and wonderful listeners. I don't think Downround is worth over $100 million.
I don't think so either. Like, we are actually kind of good to compare against them, but TBPN, insofar as we don't do any of the shit they do, which is like they go live every day from 11 till 2 or something. They have like a live kind of Bloomberg style, you tune in.
This is the thing. This is the way they originally pitched it, and it's a smart idea.
Yes.
It's like the ESPN Sports Center for the tech industry.
Yeah. So to be clear, they changed their name from Technology Brothers to Technology Business.
I didn't even know they'd done that. But the two guys are John Coogan and Geordie Hayes. And their original idea, it's ESPN Sports Center for the tech industry. You watch their feeds and it's like this really like loud with all these tickers going all over the shop and like pretty slick graphics. They get lots of great guests, but it is fundamentally like a tech podcast that's a bit brash.
No, totally.
Right? And OpenAI's bought it.
Yeah, and OpenAI's bought it. Good on these guys for doing a podcast. No hate. I feel like they're growing the pie. If anything, they're growing the pie. There might be a trickle down from the Tech Bros podcast network to one day a Downround. If this is you, if you've gone through that, if that's the funnel, if that's the customer acquisition journey you've gone on to reach Downround, starting with TBPN, let us know. Email us. Let us know. Oh, yeah. Actually, a year ago, I didn't know what AI was, and I saw a little clip on TikTok from this TBPN. It got me looking up what are some other fantastic podcasts with two fellas talking about tech business, and you landed here. We'd love to hear from you.
If you searched on Google, more podcasts worth $100 million plus, a Downround was the first result, and you clicked on it, we want to hear from you.
As part of the stuff that's come out. So they average around 70K views an episode across all platforms. Now, to me, they're streaming for like hours a day, and then it's all cut up in videos and put across everything, Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and it's all over the place. That doesn't sound like the biggest numbers in the world. Far be it from me.
It doesn't.
That's more than us. We don't have 70K listeners. I mean, that said, if we cut it all up and
just distributed it. Yeah, exactly. If we counted our TikTok views and things like that, we haven't posted on TikTok in a while, but we had a few heavy hitters when we did. But I think putting aside like raw listener numbers.
Before we get to that though, yes, as you said, the low 100, we need to touch on that very quickly. The low hundreds of millions of dollars for the acquisition price, that sounds like a lot. That sounds like a lot of money for a fleggling new media startup that is two guys sitting at a desk.
I agree. To the point that I find that the number itself sus. Like it cannot be the case. But
and
maybe
also
it is.
They got to hope that that's cash as well. I don't think I assume anything would be OpenAI stock as well.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe there's some weird valuation stuff going around with OpenAI stock and or options or whatever. So that would potentially explain it. Or maybe it's just the fact that OpenAI just raised $122 billion to spend on compute, and that this is just a drop in the bucket. They could splash cash around on media startups. But look,
for the record, I'd sell for 20 mil.
Yep.
Sam, if you're listening, 20 mil.
So, yeah, Dario, I know you were just in Australia.
Dario.
I know you were charmed by our people. We can lib out. If you want to buy us and bring us into the Anthropic fold,
I'll go full lib.
We will lib the hell out. Yeah, absolutely. We will go crazy with that. We'll start talking about China being an autocracy that shouldn't be trusted with AI. Whatever you want us to say, we'll say.
Yeah, some Russia stuff, like anti-Russia stuff. We'll say that.
Do a bit of Putin stuff. If you want to read your essays out on the air, abridged. They are a bit long.
I might even get a Ruth Bader Ginsburg tat. I'll get a tat.
Wow. On your face?
RGB, not on my face. We can negotiate.
See? This is not winner's mindset. Anyway, but the point is, the general response to this has been like bafflement. Yes. And I think the big reason is, I said this to you on Friday when it was announced. I was like, this is just like incredibly meta in the 2010s coded. Like, this is Facebook Watch vibes to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, maybe this has something to do with the fact that there's a shitload of ex-Meta people working at OpenAI across a lot of divisions, but especially in their kind of like product and marketing and all the rest of it, including, Fiji Simo, who's their CEO of applications or whatever. I think she might have changed her job title. And now she's on medical leave, which maybe we could talk about in a bit.
I think COO now, right? Chief Operations? Maybe. I don't know. Whatever. Fact check that yourself, folks.
As you should with everything we say. So the two hosts of this show, John Coogan and Geordie Hayes, they've started investment platforms and they've got some VC background. They're also YouTubers. Like, there's a million of these types of guys orbiting around Silicon Valley. And obviously they're clearly talented to some level because they've built up an audience relatively quickly. And they're obviously being brought on to handle PR as well. Like, that was part of the acquisitions. Like, they're coming on to help OpenAI tell its story or whatever. But the thing I don't get is, like, I think that the people that listen and watch TBPN would be already so in the bag for AI.
Yeah.
Like, there's no normal people.
I was trying to think through this. So it's like, and that was kind of part of it, is like they have a valuable audience, right? Like, they have the plugged in tech and investor audience.
Yeah.
So my only thinking can be like, and sorry, real-time fact check, you're right, Fiji Simo was CEO of applications at OpenAI. Yeah, my only thinking was that Sam Altman's role now, as you said, is basically just raising money, right? Like, capital raising is basically his like sole responsibility. He's got everyone else to focus on everything else. Like, is it that play? Is it like a play to VCs, basically? That was the only way I could kind of strategically rationalize it, was, okay, maybe a lot of Silicon Valley VCs and VCs listen to TBPN, and this is a way for them to influence the conversation there to kind of, I don't know, keep raising funds at large levels, or like even a retail investor play type thing, like the plugged in retail investors. But even that feels like a stretch, like buying a podcast in order to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, the only other thing I can think is like making sure that they are front of mind in all the comms for the people, like, because obviously, no, I'm just totally speculating. But if you look at the audience space for the Technology Brothers Podcast Network or Technology Business Podcast Network, Programming Network.
Yeah.
I've been saying Podcast Network, but it's Programming Network. Anyway, as I said, I don't think there's any AI skeptics who aren't broadly on board with like the infrastructure build out or whatever among the TBPN listenership. So the only thing I could like rationalizing it is like, because they've said we're going to let them, give them editorial independence and they can say whatever they want. I find that highly unlikely, but anyway, is to like increase mind share among like the real heads, like the people who are using coding agents all the time, fully engaged with AI, the sort of people that it seems like have drifted towards being more Anthropic pilled, maybe.
Yeah, just making sure that like every time the words Claude Code are said, you can also say Claude Code and Codex.
You've also got Codex.
Or whatever, to like, but like, again, like this is such at the margin stuff, right?
Totally. I think it's crazy. And like,
it's nuts. It's nuts. It's just such a bad look. Like, a fortnight after saying no more side quests, time to lock in and focus on our core competencies, we've bought these two young guys who do like an ESPN style talk tech show. Okay.
Exactly. And if you're detecting sour grapes that we should have been acquired instead, you're absolutely right.
Yes.
And like, we make no bones about it that is why we're angry.
Yes. I'm disappointed.
I think, I know this is part of our ongoing lunch bet or whatever, but I do think that a far more pressing PR concern is like, how are you selling this to the average person who you've been telling for the past 3 years that their jobs are about to be destroyed, and maybe use ChatGPT but aren't fully on board with whatever crazy political program you have, which actually they also articulated this week or over the weekend.
Speaking of like no more side quests, they're reporting directly to Chris Lane, OpenAI's VP of Global Affairs. Like, speaking of side quests, does your VP of Global Affairs now need need to be distracted by these two guys who are like on today's show we're going to talk about how people are doing vibe coding in medicine, or we've got an interview with Larry Ellison's actually first hire. What? Talk about distraction. Like, you're the VP of Global Affairs for OpenAI. You got the two guys reporting directly to you.
I fully agree. Yeah, exactly. And you got to be like listening to the podcasts they do every day and be like, oh, could you maybe next time you say that, could you talk about Codex or GPT image or something? I just think that's really dumb. I saw that Stratechery, Ben Thompson, had a big serve about this.
He went off.
He thought he hated it.
Do you think maybe sour grapes from him too? All the podcasters are mad.
Yeah, we're all mad for unspecified reasons about someone being paid the low hundreds of millions of dollars. Here's the quote. This is from Stratechery. So Ben Thompson, obviously, for those who are like, who the heck, why are you quoting this guy? Very, very popular commentator and analyst of technology. So I'll just read this quote because I just think it's really interesting. This is from a guy who is generally pretty pro-tech. I would say he's pretty on board with a lot of what's going on. And he said this about OpenAI, which I think is interesting. At the same time, I've previously wondered if OpenAI might be like Twitter, another tech-centric company that fell backwards into a huge market and never developed into a functional business because of it. If Twitter is a clown car that fell into a gold mine, OpenAI might be the short bus at the end of the rainbow. There's supposed to be a pot of gold there, but it never quite seems to materialize. The colors are fading, and worst of all, there just isn't much evidence that anyone knows what they are doing or that there is any sort of overarching plan.
Ouch.
That's pretty hot.
And he's a ChatGPT and user, and to a certain extent, like OpenAI bull, or was.
Yeah, he was at some point.
Yeah.
And this is, to be clear, this is him responding to the TBPN thing, which he finds completely baffling. We've made the comparison in the past where it's like, what if OpenAI or any of these other companies is like a Yahoo or something? Like, they kick open the door for something that's important, which is like, in Yahoo's case, was like the organization of the chaotic internet, and something that a normal person could get their head around, and then just never figured it out and just putted away, then faded, right? I think Twitter's a really interesting comparison.
Yeah.
Right there at the beginning of the social media wave, didn't die, but it sputtered, and then obviously it ended up being bought out by Elon Musk. Maybe that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as well as being somewhat, from a business perspective, mismanaged, right, is kind of the accusation. Twitter never really were profitable, never really innovated, missed out on Vine and stuff like that, as in had Vine, fumbled it, all that kind of stuff.
The counterclaim is like, okay, but what if it's a Meta, which has been distracted? Literally, I would say the main fact about Meta is that it's like constantly, forever distracted by side quests.
Yes.
Constantly like throwing money after crazy shit.
Yeah, but it makes so much money that it doesn't matter, right? Like, it actually has a functional business model, at the core of it, right? Like, that's the difference. Whereas OpenAI, they haven't worked out the unit economics yet. Like, they don't know how to make a profitable token at this point.
And like, the costs involved here are fucking astronomical. There's no getting around it. Like, the margin for error when you're doing the biggest infrastructure build out in history while also trying to find product market fit and not having done the latter is narrow. Whereas, like, I think you could argue that Meta, I think we've done this exercise on the podcast, trying to name a single one of their side quests that ever paid off.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, there's some confirmation bias in that there are certain products that are just part of the core offering that like maybe fit that bill as like a side thing that became big. But for the most part, I don't know, the crypto coin or like the digital currency, the metaverse, their AI efforts, all the rest of it, it's just fucking circling the drain. While on the other hand, they just fucking absolutely print money, which is the bit that OpenAI hasn't figured out.
Yeah, which is crucial, to be honest.
Crucial. Anyway, so that's our thoughts on the TBPN. But the other story that came out this week, which adds fuel to the fire here, is the information reported, and this is a not good folks signal in my mind. Headline, OpenAI CEO and CFO diverge on IPO timing. So Sarah Fryer is the CFO of OpenAI. She's been there since 2024, June 2024. She is, by all accounts, a pretty cool-headed, level-headed person. She helped Square go public, or Block as it now is. She was the CEO of Nextdoor and started her career as a Goldman Sachs equity analyst. Again, not a super exciting bunch then. And the thrust of the story is essentially that Sam Altman has been icing her out of important meetings about fundraising and spending money on data centers. Normally, you would kind of expect the CFO, who kind of holds the purse strings, to be in those meetings.
Yeah.
Which was described in the story as being alarming and awkward, that she wasn't. But the whole idea is that he's sprinting towards IPO, and their CFO, whose entire job for a non-public company is basically figuring out when and how they're going to do it, is like, slow down, buddy.
Yeah. Well, the implication of not bringing your CFO to these meetings is that he doesn't want her to say the truth. Right? Like, that's why you don't, because she will say real numbers, and you don't want those real numbers to be revealed in these meetings that you're having with investors and whatnot.
Yeah.
Or maybe she's just like really annoying.
She could be. Or, I mean, no, surely not. Sam Altman is not annoying. Well, I mean, look, to be clear, it's not rare. In fact, I would say it's extremely common for there to be, in fact, the information story says this right there, you know. Other Silicon Valley startups have experienced friction between visionary, growth-obsessed founders and risk-averse finance executives brought in to prepare a company for public markets.
Yes.
That is true. I would say it happens almost 100% of the time, right? You've got your founder mode guy who's like, we need to grow, we need to be chasing all this crazy cool stuff, we need to be making all these like showman-esque promises to the market. And the finance executives are there to pull the leash and say, no, please stick to the plan. Stick to what we've lined out. Don't go over budget. We have to impose some discipline. Take the fucking foosball table out of the break room and pull your head in. So this is like a really common dynamic. But I think this runs into the well-documented Sam Altman tendency to just be, you know, a scheming little lying weirdo. Yes,
because it also comes out at the same time of this New Yorker article, and it fits a pattern. Let's just say it seems to fit a pattern. Very briefly, this is what New York article sources 100 different people. It's really long. It's worth reading. But basically, what it seems to outline, and this is exactly the same as some of the rumors and scuttlebutt that was thrown around that we reported on after the Sam Altman ousting, which is basically that he's a bit of a liar. That he will say things to your face and then go and do the opposite. He'll scheme. He'll kind of set people against each other. You know, has different narratives going with different people. This kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's a palace intrigue guy. He's a scheming vizier archetype. You know? Court eunuch given too much power. But yeah, exactly. People play him against each other. This also came up in the it was a Wall Street Journal story the other day. It was a great story, which was like going into the roots of why Sam Altman and Dario Amodei of Anthropic hate each other. And it seemed like one of the motivating things is that Sam Altman told Dario and his sister that another OpenAI executive had been talking shit about them as part of some weird mind game. This sounds like
this is awkward.
Yeah, and then the siblings brought that executive into the meeting and were like, did you say this? And they were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And it was just like, again, just evidence of Sam. He's a little weasel.
Yeah, what was that quote that you pulled out from the New Yorker article?
Yeah, this is funny. I posted this on Twitter, but I'll read it. Basically, a board member described Sam Altman as having, quote, two traits almost never seen in the same person: a strong desire to please people in any given interaction, and an almost sociopathic lack of concern for the consequences of deceiving someone. As I pointed out, I actually don't think it's that uncommon to find someone who has both of those traits. I think I have personally met and dealt with dozens of people who to some degree have that combination of traits.
Yeah, I mean, every real estate agent.
Every single Sydney real estate agent. Does this sound like someone who showed you a property a sociopathic lack of concern for the consequences of deceiving someone, and a strong desire to please people in any given interaction. That's actually the industry. That's the job description. The third trait is like an extremely skinny suit from politics.
Yeah, that's right. and whatever the cheapest Mercedes or BMW is.
Exactly. Yeah. But anyway, look, there's been a lot of reporting about this. This is the way he sort of conducts himself. Is this a concern when he's also shepherding the biggest infrastructure spend in history, which involves him kind of like having to coordinate messaging between different categories of investors across the world, in the Gulf, in America, the people who are building it, investment banks. There's a lot of plates to spin and a lot of opportunities to tell some porkies.
Yeah. I think that though that second part of like, again, pure speculation from a bloke on the other side of the world, it does seem like it's like he lies all the time and gets caught lying all the time and it doesn't seem to affect him. Like that seems to be like the thing, right? It's like, you know, I have met people like this who'll tell lies or like make commitments knowing in that moment that they're not going to make that commitment, or knowing in that moment that like, I'm going to find out that that's not true, but they're still happy to do that and deal with the consequences in the future, I guess, or whatever. Anyway, it sounds like, I don't know, these people, like reading all these articles and stuff, you know, it's all big and important people who are making the most important technology in the world, who are paid massive sums of money, earning billions of dollars, to, you know, interfacing with various like Gulf countries and royals and sovereign wealth funds and this, that, and the other. But they just so often sound like children.
Oh, yeah.
Also, have we also mentioned, I think we must have mentioned on the pod, but again in the New Yorker, it brings up Sam Altman's husband being Australian. As we said, like with the perennial partners, right. Like so many people's partners are Australian. Very strange.
Yeah, exactly. It is odd. We're a nation of off-screen partners.
We're a nation of husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, or just partners.
I remember this. I was thinking about it when I was in America for 3 months, like over 10 years ago, just ping-ponging around and going to many parts of that strange land. And I would say one of the most common things I heard was like, "Oh, you're Australian." I used to, my ex-boyfriend is, my boyfriend is Australian, or my boyfriend's from Sydney, or whatever. There's something going on there. This nation of traveling life partners.
Weird.
And I think that's great.
Yeah.
That's one of our great exports.
Indeed. At the same time as all this is going down, yeah, like so Fiji Simo's now on leave, is correct?
Yeah, she's on medical leave. She's got some sort of, this was sort of said in the past that she's got some sort of chronic condition. What are the initials? MCFRS or whatever? Some sort of chronic fatigue thing. This was a known thing. She's been public about having that in the past. But now they put out lots of comms saying, I put it off for too long and now I have to take a bunch of time off to look after my health. Which is interesting. This is one of those things. I know there's lots of people that are speculating about whether she actually comes back from that, or if this is some like weird, there's something else political going on, managing her out of the job, or it's not working, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is just pure speculation. But yeah, so they're the person who has ostensibly been given a job to run the actual company while Sam Altman goes and lies to Gulf investors, which I believe is his lead job title. At the moment, is now out the door after not very long. She's only been in the job for like a year or less than a year. Very interesting.
It all kind of leads to what will no doubt be a very interesting IPO. I mean, it's supposed to happen this year. Like seeing all this, I'm like, well, we're in April. This seems a further way off than this year, but maybe it'll be great if it was this year. It'll be something to talk about. So like part of me is like, is all this going to be tough to get investors on board? Is this going to scare away your big investment banks, this, that, and the other? And the flip side is I don't think so. I heard someone describe investing in OpenAI this way. I've forgotten who, so sorry that I can't give credit to it. But it's like there is this kind of feeling that it's like, okay, if you're a little bit anxious that AI might take your job, especially if you're like a dev or whatever, if you're of the concern that, oh shit, well, I still have like a job, in some ways just investing in OpenAI or whatever is an insurance policy. You know what I mean? It's like, if I don't have a job, at least I'll be invested in the thing that takes my job. So I'd say like there'd probably be plenty of people who, there'd be enough retail excitement around the IPO.
I think so.
That I think it'll still pop, regardless of like us finally getting to see the books and the books potentially being ugly.
I am so excited to see that S1 and like what the hell is in that. And I know there's a bit of a rush And this could be a fairly, I don't know, you can read this as a bearish signal, but the fact that it's very clear that OpenAI and Anthropic, they both would insanely like to be first.
To go public.
It's very clear that they both would like to be the first one to go before quite possibly you run into that situation where the books are open, everyone sees how absurd the cash burn is. Although, I mean, at the same time, what could possibly be in there that we don't already know? Totally. Like everyone knows that this is like a crazy amount of money and there's a very narrow world where it all pays off perfectly as people expect it will. So I don't know. But it does seem like they're both very, very keen to be the first one to go.
Yeah, it's some good IPOs coming up. That'll be fun. I should also mention up the end here, just a flag on, I think a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how OpenAI and Anthropic's revenue numbers were basically on par. It has come out since then that they consider revenue differently. In particular, so Anthropic, if they sell whatever API through Google Cloud, for example, Anthropic are booking what Google gets paid as revenue. So if like a company pays Google $1 million for Anthropic tokens, Anthropic book that as $1 million revenue, despite the fact that Google will obviously take something off the top there. Whereas OpenAI, they book what basically money they get from Microsoft, not from the end customer. So there actually is a difference in how they consider revenue, which means that Anthropic wouldn't be quite as close. Just flagging, because, I want to be on the record as flagging that.
Yep. Because, what's the latest?
It's about 30 bill each.
Yeah, $30 billion run rate. Because they announced that they've got this deal with Google and Broadcom to build out TPU capacity for training and whatever. Yeah, it does seem like everyone is still betting on the scaling laws to hold up. I know we talked about it last week, this whole idea that they're all thinking about these crazy big parameter models coming along, and it's all about building out the training capacity and the inference capacity as well. So I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, time will tell.
Anyway, that'll sort us for the free episode. On the paid app, we're going to talk about the release of Claude Mythos, which has been announced. It's not available to you or I, but it is available to a select group of cybersecurity researchers. Plus, we had a message in the Discord in our topic request channel that I thought maybe would be fun to address, especially after everything we just talked about. This one came from, I don't know who it's from, but they've described themselves as the bra. Gents, would appreciate hearing a deeper dive into why you both sustain optimism that AI, that is LLMs, will bear fruit. Most media coverage is blindly buying into the bullshit narratives about souls and impending job loss and blah, blah, blah. Some sober analysis on what a feasible path for hallucinating LLMs to become pillars of a new economy without hand-wavy AGI mentions would be nice. I think we could talk about that, especially now we've just chatted on OpenAI for 40 minutes. But if you would like to hear us talk about that, head to downround.net, subscribe to Downround Premium. It's an extra episode every single week, and there's no better deal on the planet.
No. In fact, we're for sale. 20 mil.
We are for sale. $20 million, and we will say whatever the hell you like.